is welcome everyone to 5-Year Finance, which is a new thought leadership series that we've been putting together at Novum Insights, which is looking at how the economy is going to adapt over the next 5 years and effectively sort of investigate all the trends that are going on in the world as we face sort of quite extreme and exceptional times, I'd say. But I thought of many of the people I knew, Eric would be a great person to come in as an early guest on this thought leadership series, because he's had an exceptional career in Silicon Valley, social networks, and much more. He was co-founder of LinkedIn. He's currently working on a very exciting social network hub, and doing many different things, including a identity scheme linked to healthcare. Correct, Eric?
Well, we're helping with the COVID-19 situation, so there's an intersection between that and technology, which we can certainly discuss more later.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And so, Eric, it's sort of great to sort of have you on here. And what are your sort of thoughts in terms of where the world is heading? I think a lot of people, in sort of discussing putting on this webinar series, we talked about how many different people are becoming quite philosophical about the sort of times we're living in, and I think one of the reasons I wanted you to come in is that there seems this huge sort of digital acceleration that's going on at the moment. I mean, the very fact we're doing this on a Zoom webinar, which is Zoom is now, you can't open a newspaper or online without seeing a mention of Zoom, really. It's an extraordinary time. What's your thoughts on what's going on?
Yeah, Toby, first of all, thank you for having me on this virtual event today, and welcome everyone. Great questions, and great to reconnect with you, and also to see that you're doing well and healthy given the circumstances. So, I think if I may be philosophical for a moment as well, is that I think the situation that we've all been experiencing, that we're all in, is rather unprecedented. And I think it started very suddenly, and I think, to be honest, there was a thread of expectation that this was somehow temporary, and that we would sort of get back into some kind of normalcy. And what I believe is that the more that time passes, we've only had really a few weeks of this experience, that I realized that we're basically going into a new permanence, or a new normal, and that things are not really going to go back to the way they were. And so perhaps the more that we realize that, and the more that we're open to changing things, so that we as a species, as humans, can continue to survive and thrive, probably the better it is for all of us. And so you talked about this sort of digital transformation. I do believe that it will hasten the development of the use of our digital existence. If we haven't been living in the digital world already, we're going to be living in the digital world even more. And so the ways of interacting with each other, like we're doing right now with Zoom, and also through other uses of technology, and especially data, which I find to be a fascinating area right now. We could talk more about that later. We're going to become I believe, more dependent on technology and digital as we go forward.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fascinating. And in terms of what you've been doing, I mean, sort of how clearly at Hub itself, you've responded pretty quickly. At Novum, we've opened our 5-year finance channel on Hub fairly recently in line with this event. But I've always been sort of a keen follower of the project, and it seems that you're getting a lot of people sort of going on, being quite creative in what they're doing to adapt to the new reality. Where are you seeing that go?
So, for Hub itself and the platform, we've always been about building communities, and, events are a large part of that. And even pre-COVID, we were very interested in, such so-called virtual events, the ability for people to gather from all over the world, at different times, and to be able to, connect through events, simultaneously, and even, between events. And so what happened was that the, COVID-19 situation certainly accelerated that. There's a lot of talk about an interest around virtual events. That's about the only kind of events that one can have right now, particularly here in the US. And so we've been trying to help organizations and help people, get online and conduct virtual meetings, because, we still all want to, connect and interact with each other. We can't get together physically now and at any, scale. So virtual events and online meetings are really the, only way to go. But we've seen some other changes as well, right here in America. The e-commerce is, getting bigger and bigger, with people having to move online to order things, to buy and sell things. And so e-commerce, I believe, is actually, a big winner out of this whole situation. It was already big, but it's, getting even bigger. And there's talk about how, through this experience, there will be, fewer retail brands as a result of that. And testing, there's been a lot of talk about that in this country, the need to provide safety for people as we go back out into the world, whether it's the workplace or just merely interacting with each other at restaurants or theaters or grocery stores. The need to test is becoming, very apparent. And what's interesting about testing is that there's a data dimension to that as well. Once you have the test results, what can you do with that? What do you want to do with that? And so, tracking that data or using the data to one's, benefit, or to even the society's benefit, becomes a very, tantamount question.
And yeah, so I guess that's the perfect segue into your new sort of identity work that you're helping on the sort of COVID response effort. What is that? Where are you in the process of that, in sort of helping? It seems a great initiative.
Yeah, so we've always been very interested in topics around identity, especially identity as it relates to the digital world. And Hub was very much started to work on much more robust online digital identities, and through our community focus, we are hoping to learn more about the identities and the reputations of members. And with the COVID-19 situation, the need for sort of identity has actually been taken up a couple levels, right? Where in terms of trust, which has been a topic that we've been very concerned about and interested in. Trust in the time of COVID-19 is even more important. It's no longer about, hey, can we, get along and deal with each other fairly and in trustworthy ways. In fact, it's a matter of life and death, as I would say. So to be able to have, trust with each other from a, physical and health perspective is very important. And so what, just briefly, what we've been trying to do is to, try to see if we can, um, take, the need and the desires that the country has around, testing. And, we're talking about, mass testing, which is, really everyone testing, not just healthcare workers, not just those that are in vulnerable situations, but mass testing in such a way that we can all be assured of our safety and to be able to go through with our lives is what we're talking about. And so to be able to get the results and do something useful with those results while we protect people's right to privacy is an interesting kind of data challenge. And so we're working on all those aspects, but we hope that by kind of combining what's happening out there, that with COVID-19, the testing that is going to get done with that, and then the information that's going to come from that, that we can help to kind of bring about this kind of new normalcy that we all want to get out there and continue to interact with each other in person.
Great. Well, it sounds a fantastic project. And where are you in the sort of implementation of it in terms of helping identify the data, and what is it live, or is it?
Well, we've been digging into it, a bit, and as it might be expected that you're working with a group of people. We're working with a group of people, and things are very dynamic. Everyone is trying to figure this stuff out as we speak. And so in this country, there's been a call for having more tests, but also I think what's underlying that is the desire to have accurate tests. Some of the early tests that have been coming out haven't been necessarily accurate. They've either been producing too many false negatives, or also too many false positives. And so basically that just says they aren't very accurate, and so could lead people to make the wrong decisions about individuals. So there's a need to really figure out how to create these tests and to make them accurate, and also to do it at scale. I mean, we're talking about testing, in the millions of people per day. This is just a level of testing that, has never been done before. I mean, we've all gone to the doctors and, made blood tests and so forth, but those are very, small in terms of the number of tests that have to be processed through a lab. So we're talking about, orders of magnitude more testing to be able to do it more, cheaply in an economical way, and also to to be able to report on that information. Not just to insurance companies or healthcare facilities, but so that we as individuals and as consumers of society can access that information and to do useful things with it. So there's very much of a desire, perhaps, to be able to do a test and then get your test results through an app. A lot of things are available through an app, and so we hope that there's an app for getting test results for COVID-19, and to be able to share that information in appropriate ways with other individuals or other institutions, so that again, our safety can, collective safety can be assured.
Yeah, no, it sounds an absolutely great initiative. So excited to hear more about it, because I think clearly, like, we need better testing in the US and the UK and Europe and Asia, but especially the US and UK and other sort of countries that maybe weren't as well prepared as they should have been. And so I think it's really, really to be hats off to you if you can really help on that, because it's been incredible. I mean, what's your take in sort of how have you reacted over the last 1-2 months? Because it seems to have, like, I still sort of feel a certain degree of shock in terms of what's happened. Sort of a degree of interest and excitement, but definite sort of. I'm currently in the countryside in Kent, normally live in London, sort of feeling like a refugee in the UK. And it's strange times, I think.
Yeah, Toby, you've captured it very well. The words shock and also excitement are very appropriate and are the same feelings that I feel. I have been working nonstop around the clock till I drop on most days. My colleagues see emails from me, rather late into the night these days. It is. I think this is kind of part of what we're adjusting to as humans. It takes us some time to get used to new situations. I feel often that I'm living in a disaster movie, and I'm not really owning up to it yet. But in fact, this is actually a disaster, and the situation is quite serious. And so going just back to my earlier comments, is that we won't be returning to where we've been, and that we will be going to some kind of new normal. And so the sooner that we sort of adjust to that and figure out what we need to do as a species, the better things will be for us. If I can maybe make a comment that sort of borders on the political, I feel like there's a faction in this country who believes that this shouldn't be taken too seriously. Oh, it's just another virus. It's sort of part of the denier group, and hopefully on the extreme. But I think we just really need to own up to the reality and start to work constructively, I should say, to kind of get us back on the road to recovery. And I do believe that digital is really a significant part of that. So for those of us who are working in the digital realm, then the opportunity and perhaps even the responsibility for us to help and solve aspects of this situation that we're in is even greater. So I think that's what keeps me up at night, to work hard and try to do things to help out the rest of us.
Yeah, fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So in terms of sort of what by the way, I'm also going to say to the audience that sort of any time we're happy for people to either opt to come online and ask a question that they think this conversation is provoking, or just drop a question into our Q&A box, because I think there's a lot of really interesting thoughts that have come through in this discussion. But I'm more than happy just to sort of keep on quizzing Eric, because I'm pretty intrigued by all of this. And so in terms of where you see things going with data, you talked about, obviously in Hub, you've always sort of taken on board a lot of interesting data. What's your sort of big thoughts on where data analysis is going? What's what's your perception as to?
Yeah. Well, you know, part of what your Toby, in terms of the community that you've set up, 5-year finance, which I found very intriguing, very fascinating, is where is the world going to be in 5 years time? And so I think that's a great thought experiment to try to figure out where the world is going to be in 5 years. And today data already plays quite a role in our lives. We rely on data to live, really, ever since the introduction of the internet into our lives. And in 5 years time, I believe that we are going to see rely on even more data, the use of more data around our personal identities. If I may use a word that's controversial, it's tracking, right? I think one of the key lessons through this is that we somehow, all of us, each of us, probably need to track each other in certain ways, even better. And that goes back to one of the concepts that we've been working on a lot, which is this idea around trust. And trust does depend, on that data. And so, to the extent that we can, make good decisions using data, that's going to be even more weaved into, the way that we live and work. And of course, though, that with all of this data, with all of this tracking, does bring up the question of privacy, and how we can use it in a beneficial way, or in a and hopefully not in a negative or dangerous way. And so data is just a tool, so it can be used for good and bad. And so I believe some of the considerations that we'll have to really think through is how we can be using more data effectively, but preserve sort of individual liberties, or privacy, so that people feel like they are exposing just the information that they want to expose to, just the individuals or organizations that they want to expose to. And so there's going to be, I think a great role, responsible role that technology organizations will have to play to figure that out.
Yeah, no, it's great, and I think a lot of people, when they were hearing you speaking, sort of, I think I think there is a degree of fear out there about the tracking and the data, and so an anonymous attendee said, "Do you think that everyone will be on board with this move towards a full technological system that you're proposing?" And I think
That's
that
a great question.
it's an interesting one. Where do people go? What's the...
Yeah, I mean, that's the interesting question that was posed. On the one hand, it always, there are going to be detractors, or maybe people who are concerned, right, who don't want to participate. And we know that, getting people to opt into anything, especially anything new, is always a process that takes time. What's interesting about this particular situation with the COVID-19 is that we are all in this together, and so we all have something to gain, and we also really have a lot at risk by not sort of participating. So for example, here in the U.S., there's been a lot of talk about contact tracing. Using our smartphones to even anonymously sort of figure out who we've been kind of interacting with in proximity, and being able to find out if someone we've interacted with has tested positive for coronavirus, which should alert us that maybe we should be careful or mindful with our own health situation. But for something like that to work, it does need participation. And at least right now, we don't have, in this country, any kind of government requirement to participate in this type of scheme. So it's an opt-in scheme, and so that's the trick, isn't it? To convince enough people to participate in this, such that a system like this can be effective. So I would say we're looking for those use cases where there's an incentive for people to participate, and that we hope that they will sort of naturally do it because they see that it's to their benefit. And of course the tools have to be structured correctly such that they work as intended, while protecting people's privacy. But hopefully the incentive systems can also be considered quite well, such that people will actually follow through and participate.
Yeah, no, it's actually, this is reminding me, like very early in this process, I actually went to a conference, and it sort of had a lot of like crypto people in Europe at it, so including Vitalik Buterin, and then being a very open source kind of mindset group of people, there was an Excel being input, and we could sort of see what Vitalik had been slightly ill with the illness, as had like about 20 people at the conference. So it was quite like, if people are very in tune with that sort of level of transparency, you can see it being quite interesting, because I went, oh, I met this person, haven't had any symptoms, but it was quite intriguing that sort of perhaps a couple of people I'd met at that event had suddenly got ill. And it made me realize how serious this was. And I think that's I mean, presumably, do you think that these kind of solutions as well will allow us to move to a degree of normalcy in our human interactions within 3 months, 6 months, a year? What's your sort of feeling? I mean, it's
yeah, great question. First of all, I do believe that we're going to want to get back to a world where we can meet each other face to face, and do all sorts of different things, right? Be it business interactions or personal interactions, or just having a nice meal out. So we want to do those things. It will hopefully, for me, not be the case for that we're having our entire existence at our homes through tools like Zoom. That would be quite scary in my book. So I hope, I believe what we'll see is sort of a gradual opening up of ways to get back into the real world and to be able to interact with each other in person. And I think right now the way to do that is to actually put into place some kind of regime around testing, and I do believe testing at scale. Again, not just testing of health care workers and so forth that are most vulnerable, or even the infected, who are certainly vulnerable, but just kind of mass testing, which will allow us to get back into the real world and have our safety more or less assured. Social distancing is I believe only going to work up until a point. It's sort of the solution that is most easy, but in a way not totally effective. And so testing is going to be part and parcel of that. And then I do believe that being able to use the data around that, so that we can be informed about who we're interacting with, is also going to be quite helpful. But things won't really change until we actually have that, have vaccines that are available to really kind of solve this problem with COVID-19 once and for all. But unfortunately, even after that, things are not over, because we are still at risk in terms of the virus mutating and causing other potential epidemics or pandemics, and then we also stand the risk of sort of reinfections if we are opening things up too quickly. So it's going to be a period maybe in the foreseeable future where we're just living a very different existence, and testing and sort of safety and assurance, going back to this concept of trust, is really going to be first and foremost in everybody's minds.
Yeah, and I definitely, I'm also, obviously, I think all of us are deeply worried about the impact that this sort of mass slowing down will have on the economy, right?
Yeah.
And the way I've been thinking about it is very much as a sort of, I guess, a test case for what automation looks like. And so in some ways, the scary thing about this crisis is that it has just wreaked havoc economically to institutions that you would think are about the least likely to fail, right?
Yeah.
And the oil price and all sorts of things that sort of almost every 3-6 months there's been a sort of epic every 3 days or day there seems to be something that you kind of wouldn't think. I think the reversing of oil futures perhaps being one of the bigger ones, but the huge shift to unemployment, the mass furloughing, the government the Bank of England's even started effectively printing money directly to the British government. So that's very bizarre, sort of triggering sort of comparisons to Zimbabwe in the UK. So that
yeah. I mean, I just go back because I'm still honestly getting adjusted myself, but I do believe the word unprecedented is very appropriate for the situation that we're in. And I
Hi, sorry, Eric.
We lost connection there.
The
Don't know.
perils of this online world, but
Certainly, we're also getting adapted to that. Yeah, I was just saying that structures that we have felt that have been too big to fail might actually surprise us and fail, which is part of this kind of situation of unprecedentedness. And so structurally, I think we've gotten to a certain point in terms of certain kinds of systems or certain kinds of industries that we've come to enjoy and rely on, and it might just be the case that some of those no longer can function or function in this kind of new normal. So really, in a way, everything is on the table, which is both the interesting and scary part of this. And so I would say if there's a note of positivity, is that in this time of crisis, there's opportunities. There are always opportunities, and so the entrepreneurial minded really ought to take a look at the problems that exist, and hopefully apply themselves to figuring out those new problems that we have, figuring out solutions for those new problems. And therein lies the opportunities, and that's how the world will change because of new solutions that we will need.
yeah, and I think it is yeah, it's very, very interesting. I mean, I do sort of look at this as an unprecedented opportunity, right? I just think the slowing down of the world is almost like a wake-up call for us all, because I think that I mean, if you think of how the crisis started, it seems to have been linked to our misuse of animals, and the animal trade in China. And that's what people seem to be thinking about. Clearly, there's some unsustainable practices around animal life. I think it's been one of the really refreshing things, and something that I really hope the world will realize quite quickly, is the slowing down of climate change emissions is possible. I mean,
Yeah, that's right.
it can wreck the world economy in the process, but in some ways we've got to use this as a one-off chance to rebuild everything without needing crazy amounts of travel, and there are the digital tools to stop it. So I mean, I think that one opportunity is very exciting to me.
Yeah, agreed. Things like electric vehicles. Not just for passenger cars, but for industrial transport. I think is quite exciting to be able to see that yes, there can be a way, despite our large society, to have clean air and clean waters, as shows us that it is possible if we actually have a concerted effort, even though at the moment it's being forced upon us. But it is possible to get a glimpse of, kind of the future. And so, yeah, there are definitely silver linings in this whole situation. So those are definitely some of the more positive aspects out of this situation.
And yeah, and there's been a number of questions from the audience as well, again about the testing and the data. So I think firstly, I'm going to take a question on from one attendee who was saying it sounds like this testing you're referring to is an upscale way of getting people to be compliant to the system of things. So this is quite, I guess, a civil liberties point. What will happen if, yeah, I guess what will happen is that there is a degree to which lots of people are opting into tracking their data.
Yeah, I honestly believe in that, to that question, that there will be a combination of both sort of, natural incentives that just aligns us as individuals. We know that, what could happen to us, if we don't comply, what will happen to others. And so I think, that natural incentive system hopefully kicks in, majorly. But I do believe also that in various countries, there are going to be, some regulations that will compel, us as individuals to participate in these things. And hopefully, those that legislation will be enlightened and not, trample on civil liberties. But there is that aspect, or that there is that question around, how much is, too much. And so hopefully the right balance, in terms of both, will kind of get us there. It is a thing that, because it is a life or death matter, is that it needs to be fairly universal for it to work. You can't have, sort of, people who don't want to participate because they don't see the point. Um, so because we've just seen how easily, this virus spread, and so uh, you know the systems that we have to put in place to combat this have to be kind of similarly, universal as they have been in terms of the lockdowns and such. So that's I think that's the way that we'll have to do it. But hopefully we can inform people, even educate people about the need to do this, and we can reduce the fatalities that affect us.
Yeah. No, fascinating. And so we have a question from Darren Moore. Do you believe we should have a heightened level of monitoring and risk awareness for other infections, diseases, such as HIV, pneumonia, Ebola, and so on? Should the systems proposed be applied retroactively?
That's a great question. I do believe that we are on the way to some kind of extension that covers other health conditions. There's been a lot of talk, in the last 10 years or so, particularly in the US, but perhaps other places, and maybe the UK is already doing this quite a lot better, but around the digital, health record, that sort of thing. And, the situation is definitely putting all of those topics to the forefront. So whatever systems that we, are developing around for COVID-19, certainly I believe it extends to other, health, statuses. So we can use similar structures to help inform us of the, situations of others. And so I believe that will happen. And I believe that, in general, we will get to a place where, in terms of health records and their ability to be facilitated by digital tools, we're going to be a lot, better than we have been. Right now, when I go in, to the hospital, all of the organization, I don't have my complete health record. I don't have my, immunization record. It's based on my memory, and that's not good because I only deal with these things, thankfully, every few years. But to be able to have some kind of, portable, health record that, I can access, that, I can give permission to healthcare providers to access, I think would, provide sort of, tremendous value, and would be a very positive outcome coming out of this. So, the digital tools around that, I think there's a great opportunity to, work on those things.
All right. And then there's another question from Alan Lauch, who's actually an advisor to Novum, great supporter of ours. And he said, how can we use our resources wisely to minimize the future risk of pandemics?
Well, that's a very broad question. So thank you for being a supporter of Novum, by the way.
Yeah.
Any friend of Toby's should be a friend of mine. So
Yeah.
thank you for joining. I think we will naturally apply our resources, to combat this. We've just got to work together, as a world, to make this happen. And so I do believe we'll allocate the appropriate resources. But I believe what's also maybe more challenging is that we just have to become more informed and educated about the dangers of this that are out there. And to all be, vigilant about, the potential impacts of this in future, pandemics. I think one of the reasons why, countries like China and other places in Southeast Asia have generally dealt better with COVID-19 is that they've been through it before. They've been through with SARS and MERS, and so they've had systems in place where perhaps the West, hasn't. And so we're all learning on the job right now. It's kind of painful. That's maybe an understatement. But we'll be better. We'll have better systems for it. Going forward. And but we just need to become educated and aware of this possible situation. So there are going to be new viruses. We're not always going to have vaccines for the latest viruses. So it's going to be a continuing situation that we're going to have to deal with.
Yeah, fascinating. Well, Eric, I think we're sort of drawing relatively near to a natural close. So it's been a great time to sort of have you on board. So thanks for this, and we're really excited to be trying out Hub we also need to thank our marketing agency, Live Consultancy, who've been doing some great work for us, and Lisa on your team, Eric, who's done a lot behind the scenes as well. So it's sort of, I guess, to sort of sum up the conversation, where are we in the world? What sort of, how hopeful do you feel at the moment in terms of the sort of general trends that we've tried to unpick?
Yeah, first of all, we'll survive. We will. However, I hope that all of us can perhaps move from in a sense, and those of us who are in situations to help are very fortunate, but that will go from a situation where we are dealing with our current situation in terms of necessities, whether it's food or safety or even jobs, to a situation where we can try to be even more constructive and look for opportunities to provide solutions that the rest of us can all benefit from. So kind of working on the recovery part of this. I think we should make that transition and try to get ourselves out of the current situation. So that's what I hope we can all start to focus on.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Eric, well, thank you very much. As Lisa from your team is saying, everyone can join the 5-Year Finance Hub, which will allow discussion, any follow-up points that you're thinking of. Happy to chat about what we're doing at Novum 5-Year Finance. And Eric is very happy to answer on the Hub any further follow-up you might have.
Certainly. Toby, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. And I'm hoping that we'll form even more frequent engagement as a result of the situation. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm keen to be a good partner of Hub, and it's exciting times, I think. So,
yeah. Thank you, Toby.
Thanks, Eric.
All right. Talk to you soon.